What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for The Promised Neverland Season 2. This is episode 6, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Okay, so I still have plenty of issues I have after watching this episode.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I guess we should start. For those who don't know, there was actually a recap episode before this one. And ever since the last episode came out, I was kind of... I didn't really realize just how much, that they were, because a lot of stuff came out since that last episode aired. Most important of which being that it definitely seems like they are rushing to the end of the series now with Norman having shown up. And I was kind of still thinking, well, maybe it's possible that they could still go in the direction of the Goldie Pond arc, but... and I don't know why I was still kind of holding out hope, but it seems like with this episode, though, those hopes have been just completely dashed. I was kind of and after a lot of people, came out with their opinions on the episode, I kind of was like, well, yeah, it definitely seems like they might be pulling a Tokyo Ghoul with this, where they're just completely changing everything about the story and cutting out arcs out of the story and just kind of rushing things along so they can get to the end. I should say this is not Cloverworks' decision to do this, as far as I understand. This is the decision of the original author to do this. This isn't like the case with Tokyo Ghoul Route A, at least, where Studio Pierrot had Sui Ishida's outlines for what he wanted to do with that season and just threw them out. And just decided to do their own thing. Apparently it's the opposite here, where the author instead is the one who's deciding they want to go a completely different direction and just not even bother to adapt the Goldie Pond arc from the manga.
Yeah.
And instead just rush all the way to the ending.
Yeah, and
so,
also
yeah.
There is also one thing I want to point out is I'm pretty sure this is an oversight is... How does Ray still have his left ear? I mean, if we remember...
Yeah, I didn't even notice that, honestly.
It was clearly visible when, during that one scene, he was talking to Emma, up on that temple. A little small spoilers, they were talking about, the plan that Norman is going through, trying to eradicate the demons. But yeah, you notice, he still has his left ear. I mean, which is weird. I mean, they still have Emma still missing her left ear, but then Ray still has his. I don't know what they were thinking with that oversight either. It just still boggles my mind. What's been going on with these last few episodes. Yeah,
I don't even know where to begin with this, to be honest, because they've basically what they're doing is they're changing the context for certain scenes, and they're putting in dialogue in different places as opposed to where it originally happens in the manga. So before they even... I'm going to have to spoil parts of the manga here, so just to give context. Before they even meet Norman in the manga, they come across one of Norman's followers who's about to be attacked by these feral demons. They save him from being attacked, and one of his followers eventually leads them to the hollow of a tree, which they find is basically Norman's hideout or his base of operations. And there they find a bunch of rooms and a bunch of other kids there. And then eventually they're showed to an office, and they find Norman, but he looks different. Norman at this point is taller, and he kind of looks he looks a little bit like William Minerva, because at this point we know that Norman has we don't find out until later, at least, that Norman has been passing himself off as William Minerva, and we know that the real William Minerva is actually dead. Norman was posing as William Minerva, and that's part of the reason why people are following him, and that he's also been liberating a bunch of these kids from farms, and basically raiding these farms, killing the demons, and liberating the kids from these farms. And one of the people who he liberated were these older kids. I guess they're maybe teenagers or something at this point. And these are the three characters that we see in this episode. And they're one of his followers. And the way we're introduced to them is we see them basically slaughtering these demons, and we just see how ruthless they are. And we know these are dangerous characters just by how they're presented in the manga, and that's how we're introduced to them in the manga. But here we don't really see any of that. Obviously, it just picks up where the last episode left off. We find out, we see Norman, and the dialogue for the most part is lifted almost, I think, word for word, and the way the scene plays out almost exactly the same as it does when they reunite with him in the manga, where Ray goes up and not Ray, but Emma, goes up and hugs him and cries, and Norman pretty much more or less says some of the same stuff he says in the manga at this point. And then Ray comes up and smacks him in the face, and all this is basically like how it happens in the manga. But then of course we get revealed, the people who are to the people who follow Norman was just these. And as far as we can tell, it's just these three characters. We actually don't see anybody else that's following Norman, which I don't know why they changed this. It makes it seem like Norman is less influential than he's actually supposed to be at this point in the story, because he has a bunch of followers, and here it's just shown to be these three characters. So it just it doesn't make sense why they changed that.
Okay, so they do go back to the temple where Norman reunites with the rest of the kids from the Gracefield house, and then he notices that there's only a handful of the kids from the house, and of course Emma mentions that they left Phil and the other kids back at the Gracefield, but they promise that they'll go back to get them out of there soon. So that's when we finally hear what happened to Norman since the events of season 1, which was he got transferred to another farm called Lambda or something like that, and he mentions that.
Yeah, so just one thing I'll mention. In the manga, we find out that Norman, after he was transferred from Gracefield, he was put into, I guess it was called Lambda, I don't remember the exact name, but he was put into basically a facility where he was just kind of watched on a regular basis, and he was put through some of the same tests he was put through at Gracefield. He was basically kind of locked up in a cell, but he had people on the inside who were who basically shared some of his goals and also wanted to eradicate the farms. I forget exactly how he escaped, but of course he ends up escaping that facility. But every now and again in the manga we're shown scenes of Norman, Norman's daily life in that facility. I was kind of hoping they would actually show that here, but they don't show, and that's one of the things I don't understand about how the anime is handling this. They don't show any scenes of him within this facility. We just hear about it from him, but we don't actually see it. So I don't know. But that's basically what Norman was up to, at least in the manga. In the anime, it's just okay. I don't know. They just don't. There's just not enough there. I feel. To really make sense.
Yeah, it's just he mentions that he's at the Lambda facility, and he mentions that all the kids are being drugged and being experimented on, even given given growth enhancing drugs or something like that. And I
don't remember that.
Well, he does mention this, but it seems he says some of the experiments go a little bit already, in some places, there were some deformations or accelerated growth spurts or something. I'm not really sure, but they don't specifically like you said, they don't reveal too much of what happened of him being at Lambda. But he mentioned that that he and several other kids managed to get out of there, and they've been trying to liberate other farms since, I guess. But that's all we got from that. But then here's another thing that happens is they somehow created this drug that can, I guess, degenerate other demons from eating other humans, and of course, he explains that the reason why demons are eating humans is so they can maintain their human intelligence and form.
Yeah, that is actually, that part's from the manga. I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me in the comments. I don't remember the drug being in the manga. I don't know if that's something original to the anime, but I don't remember that. All I remember is Norman having, said he raided these farms and liberated the farms and, took all these kids, and that's where all these kids that are following him come from. But yeah, I don't remember the thing about the drug. I could just be not remembering it. But yeah, like apparently there's some drug that I guess they can use against the demons to make them regress or something in terms of their biology. We learned at this point in the manga that I think it's at this point in the manga. I know I'm giving spoilers, but I'm just doing it to give context because the anime won't do it. The demons, basically, we learned that they come from I think they come from water, and they were originally like these microorganisms that eventually evolved into the demons. Something like that. And one of Norman's plans is that he's going to make a new promise with the demons, because of course the way the world is now is based on the promise that was made hundreds or so years ago. And Norman is basically going to, I think he's one of his plans is he's going to make a new promise or something. But they don't mention any of that in the anime though. So it's just this drug, I guess. This is his trump card.
Yeah, it's just and he plans to use it throughout the entire village that they were at earlier to see if they can use it as a test. And then of course, Emma is a bit hesitant to even go through with this because she has a conversation with Ray the following night talking about this. Yeah.
I should mention too, Norman just kind of fucks off after this too. He just leaves. And I just thought that was kind of random. He just kind of leaves.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to be over here. See ya. And I was like, okay, well okay, this is why I was kind of frustrated with them, kind of changing these scenes up in the setting where it takes place, because originally this all takes place in Norman's hideout in the manga. And Norman has, Ray and Emma both staying there. So he's either in his kind of staying in his office while, after they have this conversation, or he just goes off somewhere with the, and leaves them at the hideout with, with the three characters who are protecting him. But here it just doesn't make as much sense because he's just kind of leaving everybody there at the, where the demons can, easily get to them. It doesn't make as much sense because, in the manga, it's he's assuming they'd be safe there because the demons don't know where they are. So it's kind of, I just didn't like that. It's just it's a small detail, but I thought it was really dumb, honestly. But yeah, like you said, Ray and Emma have a conversation where Emma's doubting, she doesn't want the demons to die, and this scene is basically, of course, lifted from the manga, but like I said, it happens in Norman's hideout instead of where it happens here, and it pretty much plays out the same. Emma's doubting herself, and I guess Ray I think he pretty much says whatever she goes along with, he'll just follow her or something like that. I think is essentially what he ends up saying. But yeah, the scene just doesn't feel as impactful because we don't have, of course, we have so much content cut out, the Goldie Pond arc, for instance, where Emma had been hunted by the demons. She's killed a bunch of these feral demons, which we don't really even see in the anime, that there's these feral demons that are running around the forest who are basically, as the name would imply, they're demons without intelligence, and they're demons that Emma and the rest of her group kill if they're being threatened by them or something. But we don't get any of that from the anime. We get one scene, I guess, with one of the feral demons, but that's the only one that shows up, so it was kind of weird how that worked out. There's no other feral demons running around.
Emma, like I said, she talks about this to Ray, of what he thinks about it, and Ray just brushes it off, saying he doesn't think that there's another way to go about go about this plan that Norman has to eradicate the demons. But then, of course, they do bring up Sanju and Mujika again, and they mentioned they don't eat they don't eat any humans to maintain their form. But of course, they don't know the fact that I think what was it? Sanju wanted to eat their offspring at one point, but that's but of course, like it's just like Sanju and Mujika supposedly don't eat like humans born and raised in the farms or something like that. But it's just I guess that's another issue. But but then the next scene, like they go to Norman's hideout, which doesn't look I don't know,
it's not very hidden.
No,
because remember I mentioned in the manga it's in the base of a tree. In the anime, it's literally looks like part of a castle jutting out from a tree, and there's a gate. I mean, like it's just any demon could find that. Like it stands out against all the other trees. So I'm not exactly sure why you'd have that as a hideout.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like nothing. What was shown in this episode even makes any more sense.
Yeah, like if you're an anime only watcher, you're probably just
it's like it's almost feel like they just gave up and they just don't even fucking care anymore.
Like even the anime onlys can feel that they're rushing things.
It's okay. Well, they do meet up with the 3 kids again. I think I forgot like 2 of the male characters' names, but I know the female character's name is Barbara, and and of course they talk about their relationship with Norman. They mostly call him boss, but they don't know anything about the time when he was up at Gracefield House during his childhood. But then they pretty much almost like they respect and revere him at times, and then they're like mostly hell bent on trying to eradicate the demons. And you see
especially
Barbara's eating something, in which we don't find out until like a little bit later in that conversation. She reveals that it was one of the demons they ended up killing in the last episode. So she thinks like eating demons is fair game when demons are eating humans too. So it's like, and of course like they she just goes off like even further, showing off her bloodlust and wanting to kill the demons until like she gets talked down by the other 2 guys, and then
I mean she even gets in Emma's face at one point, and like she apparently like I mean and this is the thing that frustrates me about about the show in general, is like the animation, the art style, like the way the scenes are presented are really, really good, but it's maybe I mean obviously it's just the way, like in terms of presentation, I mean it is obvious they're rushing things, of course, but like the way that everything looks is fine. Like I like the way this scene played out. I like the scene between Emma and Ray when they were talking, and there's like the dawn in the background. Like that was a cool shot. But it's just like it's hard to appreciate all this when you know how badly they're butchering this plot. And like I mean it looks fine, but it's just like it's really just a problem with the adaptation of it. It's just terrible. Like I mean they're not even trying. I mean I was thinking it would be fine if they went their own direction as long as it was good, but all it seems like they're doing is cutting out massive amounts of content from the manga and rushing all the way to the end, and like changing some things here and there just to, I guess, make like I suppose accommodate these changes somehow. But like it's just harder to appreciate scenes like that when you know that this is just everything else about it is essentially just at this point it's just a dumpster fire. I mean, just because of how much everything's being rushed.
Yeah, and of course the last scene we see is like Norman finally comes in, and then everyone else leaves. Then like of course like Emma and Ray give him information about about the other stuff, like they know about the demons, particularly Sanju and Mujika. But as soon as like Norman hears that, he mentions that that Mujika is like that evil-eyed girl, is alive or something like that, and it seems like he knows something about like Mujika that Emma and Ray don't. So this
must be something that happens a little bit later in the manga, because it seems like it's probably past where I read, and they just put it in here. So I don't know. I guess there must be something with between Norman and Mujika. But I don't remember anything about that from the manga. But like I said, it's probably just because I haven't read to that part yet. But this episode unfortunately just kind of more so confirms a lot of the manga readers' worst fears, I would say, about season 2. It definitely seems like they are rushing this plot and trying to go as fast as they can to actually get to the end. I mean, there are aside from the character, villains like Luvis, who was just completely removed, and one of the people of the Rattree clan. I think Peter Rattree is supposed to be like one of the main villains in the manga, and I think he's still going to be a villain in this season because it seems like they show him briefly in the opening. So, but he's probably just going to come out of nowhere. It'll be like Arima from Tokyo Ghoul. Everybody's like, who the hell's Arima? Because they haven't even shown him much at all in season 2 or in the previous season, so we have no idea why he's important. It's probably going to be the same deal here, where they're going to show a character from the manga and everybody's just going to be scratching their head and like, who the hell is this person? I don't know, like just and I mean, of course, and then we have Isabella, who was introduced as the new villain. I suppose she was going to be one of the villains in this season. I think it was like episode 3, and we haven't really seen any. She hasn't really seemed to have done anything. At least we haven't seen her do anything since. And she's supposed to be like a major villain, and like we've had like a year time skip, and like it seems like she hasn't really tried to do anything to capture the kids. So I'm kind of wondering what the hell she's even up to.
Yeah, honestly.
So I don't know. It's just such a confusing mess of a plot at this point. We're
already halfway through this season, and like, how are they going to get through all this in what 5 more episodes left?
I shudder to think at how much they're going to rush things if they only have that much time left to just basically get to the end of. I mean, we're not even talking about the end of the season, just the end of the entire series, like the ending of the series, like just. And this is only 11 episodes. Like, I mean, I do you think this is basically going to be like a Tokyo Ghoul Re situation with like the second half of it, where they just decided they were going to?
I'm starting
like rush all the way to the ending.
I'm starting to believe that it is, just based on like how. I don't know, just the way they handled this episode. Not to mention, like, I mean, I don't know. It's like it's anyone's guess on what the hell they're planning on doing. Unless they're planning on making like another season of this, which I'm afraid.
I doubt it, to be honest.
I don't know. I don't know what their plan. I don't know what their long game is here. It's just like I don't know what.
I just get the impression the author wants to be completely done with this with the series at this point, because I mean, why else would they be rushing this much to get to the end? I mean, there's not really any other way to look at it. It's like it just seems like the author because when I first heard they were making changes, I was like, okay, that's fine if they want to make a few changes to maybe improve the story from what it was in the manga, because like I mentioned before, people had problems with the ending of the manga, but it wasn't really at this part of the story for Promised Neverland that people had a problem with. Like, nobody really has much of an issue with like the Goldie Pond arc or anything like that. So like I was kind of hoping that they would just straight up adapt the Goldie Pond arc, maybe make some changes here and there, but I did not expect this. I don't think anybody expected this, like when they first heard that this season was happening. And then unfortunately we just had to find out the hard way that they're basically just not only going to be changing things, but just completely butchering the source material too, and just like rushing all the way to the end.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really sad, especially considering how good the first season was. And then they just decide to do this. So I mean, it's just really baffling as to why. I mean, I just really wish I could hear the author's reason for why like they wanted to do this with the anime adaptation.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was hoping for something better, but it just seems like it just still boggles my mind what the author was thinking about. I don't know, choosing to go around something like this. I mean, I don't think there would have been anything wrong for them to adapt like the original story, but it's just like why all of a sudden, like, it's suddenly the author's decision to dictate where the story in the anime is going to go to.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's funny too, because like people are going to look back on this, and as much as people complained about how the manga ended, like season 2 of the anime is turning out to be significantly worse than whatever problems I'm assuming the manga has later. That's the funny thing too. People are like, they're probably going to have newfound respect for the manga because of how bad the anime is now.
For me, like, I would understand this whole situation of them making like an original storyline for the show if the manga at this point wasn't even finished, but we know the manga.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's confusing too. Like the manga's already finished. Like, why are you doing this? Like, this usually happens whenever they've run out of source material, but that's not the problem. Like, they haven't run out of source material.
The manga was already done before the show even came out. I mean, but unless technically the show was supposed to air like last year, but thanks to COVID, like it kind of delayed it. But that would have given them enough time to even adapt like the original storyline. But it's just still boggles in my mind why we're getting an anime original storyline, or supposedly we might get an anime original ending, considering that we did, the entire manga is already done at this point. So it's just I don't know where they're going from here.
Yeah, I'm afraid. Like, I mean, oh god, I mean, at least they're already getting to the part of the manga where I haven't even read up to. So, I mean, I actually might have to read, because I actually just recently got more volumes of the manga, so I might have to read past that just to see when the next episode comes out just how badly they butchered that too. Because like I know what parts of it they're adapting, but the way it's being presented is just so confusing. I mean, obviously they're butchering it, so but yeah, this episode is just like I'm not gonna say all of it was bad, because like I said, I like the way the presentation, like visually it's good. Everything else is not so much. Like just story, in terms of its story, in terms of the writing, in terms of just in general it being an adaptation, it's just really not good at all at this point. So it's not good. But I guess we're just gonna stick through it and just see it through to the end, just to see just how bad they rush. I mean, because it's not. I mean, we're already like halfway through, so it's like we might as well just stick it out to the end at this point, just to see how much worse it can get. But I mean, it seems like we're finally on the downward spiral. I mean, it pretty much, I would say, a lot of people would agree with me. It started in the last episode, and it's just been going downhill in this episode as well. So it's just I anticipate it's just going to get worse. So I mean, like I said, we're pretty much going downhill. It's all downhill from here. So I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, that's all we can do. Aside from that, I don't really have much else to say about it. Unfortunately, this season is ending up being. I was optimistic at first. I didn't want to say that this was going to be terrible, but unfortunately, it looks like it's going that direction.
If you thought like the mixed reactions of the episode from 2 weeks ago was bad, think about all the reactions that's going to come out from this one today.
Oh god, yeah. Well, and yeah, just the series in general. Like, I mean, it's going to be on the same level as something like Tokyo Ghoul Rude, or I guess more accurately Tokyo Ghoul Re, the second part. Just in terms of, I mean, I guess you could say it's part Tokyo Ghoul Rude and also part Tokyo Ghoul Re with how much is being rushed. It's like the worst of the two, because Tokyo Ghoul Re was so rushed, and Rude just decided to change a lot of stuff. So it's kind of the worst parts of
I
those
mean,
things.
I was hoping that Re would at least fix a lot of those problems, but it didn't turn out to be the case.
No. Yeah, but yeah, I don't have too much else to say. I mean, it sucks, but this season is just turning out to be a massive disappointment. I mean, and it sucks to say, because like I said, the first season was so good, and then we have this to follow up on. It's it's not what I cannot say this is what I expected to come out of this season, but this is what we got. So yeah. I don't know if you have anything else to say about the episode.
I mean, we'll have to see what's going to happen next week, but it just seems like it's anyone's guess on where this is going to go now, considering that they just meshed in everything that you mentioned, like that happened ahead in the manga, or something. I don't know.
I mean, they cut out like a couple arcs worth of content, so that's like, I think people were saying like 70 plus chapters or something crazy like that. So that's how much stuff has been cut. So yeah, but yeah, I guess that all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.